Welcome to another, I would love to say it is an exciting episode, but hey, it is what it is. An episode of the Comic Book Chronicles.
That the crowd can try to hype us up.
Indeed, indeed. I am your host, Rodykat. You can find me at Rodykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdSneed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. And sound effect you've heard, and of course, and the other voice that you've also just heard comes from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and the Threads.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the Borough of Kings. Let's see what I'ma play now. Just a kid from Brooklyn.
Show comes to you, is also brought to you in part by, whatever, the Coastal of the Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You could also find us on your podcasting police of choice, whether it be Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and leave us all the positive 5-star reviews, specifically and especially on Apple Podcasts, because that helps people find our show.
Indeed, and I'll save the live streaming stuff for later on. But right now, so yes, we are coming to you post the fucking of America. Once again, the world's turned upside down because of idiots and dumbasses.
Yep.
Awesome. Wow.
Pretty much. But the show will go on, because honestly I thought about it for like 20 seconds. I was like, you know what, I don't know if I feel like having a show this week. But it was like, no, we're gonna do this.
Listen, I scheduled a haircut appointment tomorrow just in case Rodykat wanted to push it till tomorrow.
Right.
You know, I scheduled it for an earlier time specifically because of that. So I was prepared. Right. But we're here with you guys tonight.
Absolutely. We're gonna get through this, just like we will try to do these next 4 years, unless somebody continues to do some buckery. But anyway, this is not a political podcast. Maybe we'll start one of these days. I doubt it. But we are going to start off the show. Actually, there's something else we're going to mention before that. No, we're not. We're going to start off the show with Agent 70 discussing this week's Penguin show.
This week's Penguin episode was episode 7. This is the penultimate episode. And guess what, folks? This episode reminds us all that the Penguin is not a hero. He may be the quote-unquote protagonist of this show, but he is not a hero, nor is he an anti-hero. He is out for self. He's out for power. He is a sociopath, and you see his origin in this Matt Reeves Batman verse is cold and calculating, and just, you know, there's very little, if anything, redeeming about what he about this character. 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 I heard myself bounding on myself.
And that was weird. Sorry about that.
Right? You heard that, right?
Oh no, that was, yeah, because that was my fault. I hit something I shouldn't.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, the Gremlins are out tonight. But bottom line is, you know, we have to remember that, you know, that the Oswald or Oz Cobb becomes the Penguin. Whether or not we get to see actual penguins, you know, that's what I want. I really want actual penguins here, but you know what? You got to remember that he, you know, this is a character that has very few, if any, redeeming qualities, and you know they remind us that in this episode. So, bottom line is, it's still very, very well told. It's well acted. It's well written, and I'm looking forward to the last episode. So I hope that if you have not yet watched, you make some time, because you don't want to watch the news or listen to your favorite politics podcast go over what went wrong. Maybe you'll make some time to watch episodes of The Penguin and catch up and see how we get to this point. So, I definitely recommend it. It's not a feel good, happy go lucky story, but at the same time, it's well written and well acted. So it's worth your time.
And actually, on that note, if you got something else on that, unless that was it for you.
No, that's it. That's it. Like, I don't want to spoil anything, because there are reveals in this episode that are fairly important to the story.
I got you. Because actually, just reminded me of a show that I wanted to bring up really, really quick. It's a cartoon, but it's not necessarily based off of a comic book. But we have talked about it, I think, in past shows. It's called Invincible Fight Girl. It is out on Max, and it shows on Toonami, aka Adult Swim. And I think like new episodes come out every Sunday or something like that, or at least it comes out on Max on every Sunday, something like that. The first couple of episodes are out. Excuse me, and the show is interesting. So it's about this young girl named Andy who wants to become a wrestler. Because she, from humble beginnings, basically, her parents are accountants, and they want her to be accountants, but she really wants to be a wrestler. And the first two episodes kind of go into basically the start of her journey down that road. And it's a fun, good show. There is definitely some Dragon Ball esque homages. You can kind of tell early on in the show, which also makes it kind of fun, including some sound effects that sound familiar to a Dragon Ball character's movement, let's say. So
okay,
yeah, and that was kind of amusing in itself. And like basically, the world is full of wrestlers, and they are like held to a status. And like I said, this young girl wants to be one, and now she's on the road to being that. And it's like I said, it's a cool show so far, and I'm looking forward to the next episode, which I know, like I said, comes out on Sundays on Max. I can't remember when. I'm going to assume because it's on Toonami and Max, it's on Toonami that it airs on Toonami on Saturdays, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look that up again, but regardless, hey, if that is something that is of interest to you, you should check it out. It's a fun show. And with that, we are actually going to go into the book of the week. Starting off with X-Men number 7.
X-Men number 7 is written by Jed MacKay with pencils by Netho Diaz, inks by Sean Parsons and Livesay. Colors are by Marte Gracia and Fair Cifuentes Sujo, and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, speaking of some things being revealed, some secrets being revealed, much like in The Penguin, X-Men number 7 reveals a few and teases more coming. Right? The first one that's revealed is why Magneto is doing his best paralyzed Professor X impression.
Right.
Right? And the second is what happened when the X-Men kind of relocated to Alaska. Right? And why Scott Summers has always had a connection to this particular area of Alaska. I kind of forgot that. Mm-hmm. I remember that particular aspect of the character. Maybe it's just something that slipped my mind. But, we get a connection between Scott's longtime history and this current stage that he and the other X-Men, or at least this group of X-Men, find themselves in. And like I said, there are a couple of other reveals and more mysteries abound at the end of the issue, right? So, with that, I'll hand it off to Rodykat because I did my best to not spoil a single bloody thing.
And here's where I come along to spoil the whole goddamn thing. I'm just kidding. Sort of. I mean, so yeah, so basically it kind of cuts back and forth between flashbacks from a few months ago between Scott and Magneto with what Agent 70 says, which kind of leads to basically how this book or the book and the team comes about, let's just say.
Right.
It's kind of amusing that Scott's and Mag. I hate calling him Max because either call him Eric or just go ahead and call him Magnus like I used to, because let's face it, the mama call him Magnus, I'm gonna call him Magnus. But yeah, that whole conversation between them before things happen later on in the issue was kind of amusing, because I don't think they've ever really talked like that to each other during through their whole history. Obviously, they were at odds early, and even when Magneto became the headmaster of the school, like, I don't think they talked like they talk now, which is kind of the most amusing part about this issue.
Right. I mean, there's a great line in there about how someone's acting like Wolverine, and the person accused of that says, "Well, everyone likes him."
Right. Exactly. So, and I put a note in my notes saying, it was like, is this Magneto's version of a pep talk? Like,
Well, what?
Magneto's version of a pep talk?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But outside of that, we find out that well, let's just say there's a remnants of Krakoa that have followed them into the present, that as a side effect of a thing that that they had going on during that time, which I was like, that's interesting. At the same time, that's kind of messed up.
Right.
Like, okay, I get it. You want to get away from that whole thing, but why would you want to bring something like that into this?
Right.
But it is a story, and it is what it is. And then at the end, we got, I don't want to call it an end credit scene, but it kind of sort of is in a way. That has to do with one Hank McCoy.
Right. That's the mystery I was alluding to.
Yes. Also the mystery of how do you still have a Quinjet, but
I mean,
I say that, and then I think about that one issue, those two issues of X-Force. I don't think that was it, but those two issues of X-Force where him and Wonder Man were back together.
Right.
Again, but I don't think that's the case. Regardless, it was like, okay, that's a funny thing to bring up. Also, Magneto trying to take credit for what the Avengers did was kind of funny.
Oh, sure.
So, but yeah, X-Men 7 is information heavy in spots, including the two mysteries actually that we have going on, because one of which that was just mentioned, but there is also another mystery that has to do with
a new character in the book.
Yes. And
character introduced in the series.
And yes, and the testing for mutants.
Right.
Let's just say. So.
Right. And all that is to say that McKay is definitely messing around with established canon as to how mutants come about, because obviously that's one of the key concepts of this series so far, is that Cassandra Nova, and I forget the organization that she's running around with now, whatever new name they came up with, but they're basically forcing regular humans to become mutants somehow. They've developed a process somehow. So that changes everything that we have understood about mutants and Homo sapiens, or Homo superior, as that is, on its head. So we'll see how that's developed over the course of the series.
Indeed. But none of that matters going into the next issue, because we are apparently going to have a crossover with the two. I'm just going to say main X books. That being X-Men and Uncanny next issue, which I need to catch up on Uncanny. Which I thought it was like, wow, you would think they would have taken a little bit more time before something like this would have happened.
We're already in issue 8, though.
Right, I know, but I'm saying you would think it was like, well, even though we're 8 issues a year, we're not like a year into this whole, after Krakoa thing. So usually you figure they would have done something then. But then again, this is not the old. This is not the old Marvel. This is the now Marvel.
In my mind, I'm like, wait, they're already in the second trade paperback, so it makes sense.
Sure. So, but I don't know.
That's like another way to look at it. That's all.
Yeah, I guess so. Shout out to Divine Gloom, who comes into the chat. Dang it again, sir. Don't worry about it. You get here, you here. We appreciate you.
It's all good. We, listen. We're happy to have you show up. When you do.
Absolutely. And he also says Simon Williams is his boy, talking about Hank McCoy. They indeed. I've always loved their dynamic back in the Avengers days.
Yep.
Which, speaking of, the West Coast Avengers is I think next week. So that's going to be. Stay tuned for that. Anywho, we're going to get into the next book that we have in common, which is a potential Ultimates number 6.
Ultimates number 6 is written by Dennis Camp, with art by Juan Frigeri, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So there is one sound effect for when you get a story like this. It's always apropos, and when I hit it, you'll understand why. It's a trap. Right? That's what this issue is basically about, because a trap gets sprung around the Ultimates, and they do their best to get out of it. And the trapper, right? They're the trapeze. The trapper is none other than a character who is a member of the ruling Illuminati in the Maker's version of Earth, right? But this character, it's hard to say that I'm going to spoil it because this character is on the cover, right? It's this ultimate version of Hulk, but there's a big but, right?
And not just
this, right? This version of Ultimate Hulk is probably the most powerful you'll ever see. That's just my conjecture. Obviously there are writers out there who will come up with an even more powerful version. But when you read this and find out what the combination of skills are here, you will appreciate what I'm saying. And I'm going to hand it off to Rodykat because I basically summed up most of the issue in very broad strokes. But I'll leave it to Rodykat to fill in some more blanks.
Yeah, and I was going off what you said. I'm pretty sure there's a Screen Rant article right now probably saying he is the strongest one there is ever in all eternity.
Right. We're waiting on you, Screen Rant. Follow, prove us to be true.
Right. And backpack, I feel like there might have already been one. I just didn't put it in there because I knew we were going to talk about it. But yeah, so first of all, we have the whole team assembled. Let's get out all the way first of all, and I mean whole team, because this is not, obviously it's 6-on-6 roster, but this is what they have in this universe right now. All 11 of them.
Right.
From this, so it's not a team of 7, which of course, me being me, had to mention that because it's always 7. Well, at least at some point, or let me phrase that. At some point, it became to be 7. Outside of that, it was all around the place. Either way, but yeah, this is all of them.
I remember there was a government mandate that it had to be 7, right?
Mm-hmm. And
anyway, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. Thank you for bringing that up. But before that, it was all around the world, and of course, Hickman in his infinite wisdom said, "Fuck all of that."
Yeah, I was about to say it's one of my favorite eras of the Avengers when they went, full scale.
Avengers World, baby. So, that being said, this team kind of goes into, and, as we've said in the past, this is an interesting mix of power and whatnot. There was a couple of things about this team that I did not know about, including that whole Thor thing, which I don't think they've addressed yet. Like, because if you go to the beginning of the book and it was like, you know, Thor's a prisoner, Sif is his jailer, and da 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 da. And like,
Right. Remember, he was like wounded for a while.
right.
There was a lot of stuff going on with that. So
right, but it was like, okay, they never really address why that was the case, because it's not like Ultimate Thor has a book. And I assume that at some point they're probably going to get to it, and it's probably minor at this point. But it's like it's one of those things that's like, okay, I need to know what's going on with that, because it keeps getting brought up but never really addressed.
right, it's somewhere on the side. They also want to nerf this particular group of Avengers. They don't want to have Thor just running roughshod over everyone that they fight. But that would not have been the case in this issue. He does end up kind of being one of the last standing towards the end. So it's not like he's completely nerfed, but they kind of take the spotlight off of him.
Right, which is probably gonna sound like a slight spoiler, but yeah, but we've already said it was a trap. So the things kind of go a certain way. That's all I will say that.
Right.
In this fight with the Gamma Immortal weapons, and they
I would say that's a spoiler right there.
It is,
because
kind of.
I left out what the Hulk was able to do, but if you are well read enough in circa like what, mid-aughts, or is that later than that? It might be later than
earlier,
that.
but you're probably right. You might be right about that. Yeah.
Right. It might be mid-aughts, but I could be wrong.
Right. Also, there was a repeat of a thing that happened in the prior Ultimate Universe, but also happens in Invincible. That happens in this issue. I was like, wow, they're doing that again. And it's like, oh wait, no, it didn't come back, right? But I was, but there was a particular episode of Invincible from the last season that also mirrors the thing that happened
right
in here. So I was like, huh, that's interesting. So yeah, needless to say, potential click of the week, because it was really good, and I was like, I shouldn't be surprised that it was good, but I didn't expect what happened. The couple of things that happened in this issue happened. Von Gloom says Ultimate 6 made me wish that there was another Marvel vs. Capcom game out right now. Given that last collection, it could happen. It better be better than Infinite. That's all I know. He's more intimidating than the previous Cannibal Ultimate Hulk, right? With the end, kind of flashback to an event from previous Ultimate Universe. Not sure how Redacted will survive or come back. Hey, hey.
It's comics.
Yeah. We don't know the extent of what's going on there. And to answer your question, was Doom even involved in the fight? I mean, technically, no.
Yeah.
But yes.
He was the escape route.
Right. Yeah. Like he was for that, but not in the actual fight itself.
Right.
So, Von Gloom also says, think Loki is ruling Asgard, and that's why Thor is a prisoner. Well, I don't know where that was established at, if that's the case. And I worked like that might have been probably established in Ultimate, but
in like a note.
Right. But the extent of that is what I'm saying, is how that became to be.
Right.
Yes, as Von Gloom says, yes, Janet must be irresistible to fat dudes. Yes.
Oh no.
Making the callback that I was dancing around.
Awful.
Yeah, it was a good callback, but also at the same time, like, dang, I didn't think there was actually gonna repeat anything from the previous universe. So there was that. But yeah, great stuff. If you get a chance to read it. Also, there was a little blurb from Doom that acts like he might have seen this happening before. And also, I do remember, because of all the other things, and they have the whole time thing. Maybe they'll address that a little bit more as to. I mean, they've already kind of addressed it, in an issue in the past, but maybe they'll get into some of the other stuff that, that they dance around at, and they do still have that ticking clock thing going on too. So, that is going to the next to the new event, or presumably leading to the new event that is coming up. So we shall see. But yeah, great stuff, Ultimate 6. As you see, the variant cover of note and this wraparound cover right there as I pull up the next book.
Right.
Which,
As Rodykat mentioned, this is definitely a candidate for Click of the Week for me. It was a very good read.
Mm-hmm. Another potential click of the week for me before we get into one that was a shared potential click of the week for ourselves. Avengers number 20.
Avengers number 20 is written by Jed MacKay with art by Farid Karami, colors by Federico Blee and Andrew Dahlhaus, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So remember last issue? Everyone was talking about T'Challa going off on his own to, take his mind off the fact that his ex is literally now a teammate of his, and they have to work together and stuff. So he's trying to work out some stuff. Not only with that, but also with the fact that he is no longer king of Wakanda. And all of these issues get brought up here in this issue. All of these personal issues get brought up in the story in this issue. And T'Challa is basically a freedom fighter / insurgent / let's just say coup d'etat instigator.
Yes.
Right. So those three things in this issue, and I'll hand it off to Rodykat to continue to talk about the issue.
Some would say a CIA like destabilizing agent in a way. But as the book keeps saying, he was born for this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so what was supposed to be a scouting mission, as we found out last issue, turned out to be everything but in this issue, with T'Challa getting into everything that he's gotten into
right.
with this.
Right. The order, the part of the mission parameters that says do not engage, he did not read.
Yes. He just kind of glossed over that statement. Or maybe he went in with the intentions of that being the case and saw what's going on and be like, okay, nah. Which could be column A, column B, realistically at this point. This is T'Challa after all. So, really not much more to say about this without giving too much away. But yeah, T'Challa is pretty much working through some things as well as working on the problem at hand. During this issue, which I'm a little fuzzy about, because I know it's kind of stemmed from them going up against the Twilight Court, but and maybe I need to go back and read either not last issue but issue before last just to see, well, why did they feel the need to do this, to have somebody come here and do this, and to what end goal was this mission was going to serve, basically. So, because like I said, that part's got a little fuzzy on me. So Jed MacKay's kind of spinning some dishes, some of which I don't remember at all. Yeah, that's really not much more to say about Avengers 20. Von Gloom says at least Hank didn't bite off dude's head around this time. No, he gave that, they flipped that one up. Redacted suit probably has some temporal failsafe. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, Von Gloom. We also wish that. Von Gloom says, "Wish that the election wasn't the backdrop for this week's drop. Had to reread the books to fully process them properly. Understood. And take care of yourself, as we all are continue to do."
We're trying our best. We're trying our best.
Yes. And with that, we are going to move to the next book, which is another potential click of the week, as I said. Alien versus Avengers number 2 of 4.
Yeah, so Aliens versus Avengers number 2 of 4 is written by Jonathan Hickman with art by Esad Rabich, colors by Yves Scorsina, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So this is a candidate for click of the week for me. Not necessarily for the entire book, right? But there are a couple of key moments in this book that made me just like kind of pump my fist, right? It's been a tough week, and reading this yesterday, I was kind of like, yes, that's what I needed just now, right? Specifically, one of them is a Cap moment. The other one is actually a Hulk moment, a Bruce Banner moment. And while this is obviously a non-continuity issue, it does borrow from the current Marvel continuity and transplants characters from the Alien universe into the story, and basically serves as a pretty solid what if the Alien storyline happened parallel in lockstep with the Avengers and the Marvel Universe story. So with that, I'll hand it off to Rodykat.
Yes, and all of that with a nice dose of Hickman mumbo jumbo in the mix.
Yes,
because boy howdy, we got a good bit of it in here. Especially with him introducing folks that like, okay, where are these people coming from?
Right.
Like, what are these people doing here? Where do they come? Oh, well, we found out what they want, but at the same time, like, okay, so what's? You only got 4 issues, Hickman. What are you doing? You just popping, throwing folks in here, halfway through the game, that we don't know anything about. But hey, but actually, I guess once you read the story and you think about it for a second, okay, well, you see there's going to be a run-in. And it kind of feels like the alien part of the Alien versus Avengers is kind of a side note.
As it should be. Because at the end of the day, you're dealing with, superpowered people, but they're they're fighting a losing battle of numbers.
Right. Well, so yeah, but that's why I kind of disagree with that, because it's like I was thinking, like, I get where this is going, and I'm still here for the ride, but at the same time, like, yeah, I would have wanted to see that though.
We saw a little bit of it in the first issue, not a lot.
Right, but I was
thinking a little, right, and we also see a little bit of it in this issue also.
Right. So yeah, it's still there, but it's like it's kind of a Walking Dead situation where it's like, yeah, the zombies are kind of the side note of the whole story, despite them being the catalyst of a whole lot of things. So,
right.
Which, like I said, not necessarily a knock, but it's just like, well, okay, it makes sense, but it kind of wanted to see it play out the way the title suggests. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
I think that's that's really but those 2 moments that Agent 70 kind of alluded to were definitely the key moments of this issue, and they were great moments. And you know what? Hey, for criteria for Kliqs of the week, it doesn't necessarily have to be the book as a whole. Could be moments. We have said this before, so it's not. We'll see how that plays out at the end of this thing. When are we getting Terminator versus Iron Man or RoboCop versus Ultron? You talk too loudly. I hope you prepare to write them before somebody steals your ideas.
All right.
That being said, what's our next book? Our next book is our last book that we have in common, and that is for the week in the form of Batgirl #1.
Batgirl #1 is written by Tate Brombal, a name I am unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
It does have art by a name I am very familiar with, and that is Takeshi Miyazawa. Colors are by Mike Spicer, and letters are by Tom Napolitano. The main reason why I am mistaken every once in a while for being Italian. So,
okay, sure.
Every once in a while, I'm like, have you looked at me? But anyway, I picked up this book to read because of Tak Miyazawa's art. I am very unfamiliar with the character of Batgirl under the identity of Cassandra Cain, and that is the Batgirl we're following. We are not following Barbara Gordon, who is also Batgirl, but also goes by Oracle. Right, so much like Spider-Man, much like Captain America, much like a lot of identities, we have more than one version currently active and practicing, and alive in the current continuities of the various comic book stories. Right, so this is not the only Batgirl, but it is a Batgirl, and it is the Cassandra Cain Batgirl. And I learned a lot about the character by reading the preface and by reading this issue.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm unfamiliar with the character. And this is, of course, and to quote Dominic Toretto, this issue is about family. And with that, I'll hand it off to Rodykat.
Indeed, indeed. There's a so yeah, I like Agent 70. Also, unfamiliar with the character, except for the fact that I am reading Birds of Prey, which she is also in. Um, uh, that being said, like I've seen and heard that name here and there, you know, as being badass and this and that and the other, and I don't think I've seen her in any other. I probably have seen her in other media. I just don't remember at this point. As a thing, and I know there was another Batgirls book with her and Stephanie Brown, if I'm not mistaken, not that long ago. That and Oracle, I think, was also in it, but before the Birds of Prey run. So, which I will be talking about Birds of Prey in a little bit. But yeah, so we get a mother daughter team up here. If you didn't already know about their relationship, you definitely get a sense of what that relationship between them are here, and that is like I said, for those like us that are not as familiar with the character, is a good thing. It's like, and it's spelled out enough to be like, okay, I get it. I get it, sure. But yeah, they are found themselves reluctantly team up, especially reluctantly on Cass's side of this, because of there's some folks after them. And yeah, that's pretty much what this is going on. This is, if I'm not mistaken, well, this is an ongoing, if I'm not mistaken. So, and this is a part 1 of 6 for the arc. So therein lies that. Where the book goes from there, should it continue? I guess we will see. But it was safe to say, for a character I don't know that much about outside of the like I said, the other book that she's in, a fairly strong start to the book. So I guess we'll find out a little bit more, or those of us, unless we do some outside digging on or outside sources, do some other digging around on the character for whatever reason, this will serve as that potentially. And with that, in the books that we have in common,
Rapid fire review time. Ain't got time to bleed. First up for me is Absolute Superman #1. I did not make the Ultimates jokes, but we always do, right? It's written by Jason Aaron, with art by Rafa Sandoval, colors by Ulysses Ariola. There's a joke there that I made before. And letters by Becca Carey. So, Absolute Superman #1, there it is, folks. Is a pretty interesting retelling of the Superman origin we all know, but definitely heavy with allegory with regards to the current state of the world we live in here, not in the DC or Absolute universe. So if you are interested in that, Jason Aaron's obviously going to put together a very well-told story. The art is spot on by Rafa Sandoval. It's worth a read. I've read all 3 of the first Absolute books, and they're all fairly strong so far. We'll see how they hold up over the course of, say, their first story arcs. But I would say give Absolute Superman #1 a try. Next up for me is Spider Society #4 of 4. It's written by Alex Segura, with art by Scott Godlewski, colors by Matt Miller, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So issues 3 and 4, right? I kind of read them together because I did not read 3 right away, and I had to reread it to remember what happened. Reveal a pretty interesting twist. Speaking of the Absolute universe, The whole point of these Spider-Verse books is to introduce variations of characters that have really fun twists to them. And the villain in this Spider Society series is a version of Madam Web that is almost too logical to not actually happen in any Ultimate universe, right? That it was conceived of in a Spider-Verse, right? But it's just such a logical extension of what would happen in these stories, right? What has happened in the mainline 616, right? It's just logical, but it's a fun kind of story. It highlights all these spiders that Sony's no doubt going to try to incorporate in the next Spider-Verse movie, and at the end of the day, we'll see what happens next with the Spider-Verse set of characters. Next up is X Factor number 4. It's written by Mark Russell with art by Bob Quinn, colors by Jesus Bertov, and letters by, again, our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. This issue actually sees, spoiler alert, no member of X Factor dying. Rather, we have a very wacky mission take place to, underneath the crust of the earth. And, the team, right now we know that the team is fluid. The composition of the team's roster is fluid. But we just had another character pop up who was unfamiliar to me, was billed as like a guest appearance, and it's a character related to Dr. Cecilia Reyes. So you know what? This is one of those books that features like some of the more offbeat and like C or D list, and I say that as kindly as possible, X-Men.
And also would like to mention before you go on, Greg Land cover.
Oh, for goodness sake, I flipped past that so fast. Next and last for me is X-Force number 5. It's written by Jeffrey Thorne with art by Marcus Toe, colors by Eric Arciniega, and letters again by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. This issue sees what the whole purpose of Forge's X-Force team is. But unfortunately, we also see what can happen, to, I guess, like I said, C and D-list characters in the non-Resurrection Krakoan world now. And that is, a fairly large spoiler for this issue. But, we get to see how this group of X-Force characters is coming together. And I'm very much on the fence for getting off of both X Factor and X Force, but I would probably stick with X Force a little longer than X Factor. And that's it for me.
I was going to say or ask whether the cover for X Force kind of gives a hint to also kind of gives a hint to what you were dancing around.
I'm looking at the cover now. Not really.
Okay. Cool.
Because it looks like from well, it does a little bit, but there's a lot of people getting shot in this particular cover.
Right.
So
Von Gloom says Sandoval's art improved a lot from Ultimate Doomsday that he drew for Marvel many moons ago. So for myself, we're going to start off with I don't have a soundbite for this, but of course you can't say the words without singing the song, and that's DuckTales. Ooh. DuckTales number 1. Written by Brandon Montclair with art by Tommaso Ronda with letters by Fabio Amelia. Not Dabio, because I don't know who the hell Dabio is. So yeah, we got a new book from Dynamite with the Disney property. I know Hercules came out, but I haven't came out this week, but I'm not reading that. So yeah, it's Uncle Scrooge, it's the boys, it's the whole it's probably going to be the whole gang from Duckburg, because most of them at the very least cameo, or a lot of them cameo in this issue on a page.
Word up. I'm sorry.
Indeed.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
I
you're
heard
good.
you say cameo twice, and it
That's-
was a trigger.
You know what? I appreciate it though, because that was that was pretty good. But yeah, so it's a pretty much of actually the first issue. Is kind of, you know, Uncle Scrooge and the boys. And actually, I'm gonna go to my notes here for a second, because there's a lot of 1-2 page stories that are kind of brought into play while the overarching story is going off. So basically, it's like it starts off with the boys in the money bin counting Uncle Scrooge's money, and of course the boys being the boys, kind of bored and whatnot. And Uncle Scrooge comes along, and they make a joke about. I will say this much: they make a joke about him swimming in the money, which they ask the question that, you know what, even despite being cartoons, it's a valid question. But that leads into you know, a story with a bunch of little stories and lessons about treasure hunting opportunities and a little bit of money laundering in the mixed, and also probably setting the backdrop of what's going to happen in this book, which, if you remember, you know, the original DuckTales or even the reboot of it, you know, it's kind of same old, which, you know what, hey, also I made a joke, was like, yeah, and I guess it's there might be a part of a story on generational wealth in here somewhere, if one panel or two is to be believed. But nevertheless, yeah, that's DuckTales #1. And Von Gloom asks, is this the original continuity or recent? It's definitely not the Disney Plus continuity. It's not, excuse me, not necessarily the original either. It's kind of, actually, the way it feels is set in the old continuity, kind of. Well, actually, was there a well, I guess technically it is the original DuckTales continuity, but also has a feel of the old Disney books prior to that. I guess if that makes any sense. But I guess you can fit it into, it's not necessarily continuing from the continuity of the original series. That part is absolutely true. But, you know, the old Disney books, especially the old Doctor Strange, Uncle Scrooge books from Disney from back in the day, kind of has that feel of it more than either of the shows. Put it that way. Next up, and actually, is absolutely the next one. Next up, Birds of Prey, number 15. Written by Kelly Thompson, art by Sammy Basri, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Clayton Cowles. So, speaking of Cassandra Cain, she is still undercover at what's it, Ninth Corporation, I think it's called, and because her and the team are looking for some missing Amazons, of which Ninth Corps may have had something to do with, and we find out a little bit more about that, but not necessarily why they kidnapped these Amazon. But we do find out where they got them or how they got them before. Her cover is kind of blown, but not really. And what comes out of that, which means, you know, her basically getting into a diehard situation, but also leads her into a bigger set of a bigger problem that Ninth Corporation is maybe possibly setting loose on the world. And meanwhile, the team's kind of on the sideline, worried about her, waiting for her to get, you know, call them. And one in particular is kind of worried, but we also see a little bit of the team, you know, the rest of the team, what they're up to, and we also get to see a little bit of Dinah's dynamic leadership skills in that respect, because of what they're dealing with while waiting for Cass. But yeah, good book still continuously because I've been enjoying Birds of Prey, and that has not changed. So next book. My Adventures with Superman 6 of 6, written by Josie Campbell, art by Pablo M. Collar, colors by Hi-Fi, and letters by Lucas Gattoni. So yeah, this is the last issue of this series, which was meant to be a mini series and was also meant to be a story set between seasons 1 and 2 of My Adventures with Superman. Though the thing that might be coming out of this is something that could potentially come up in season 3, all told. But yeah, so they're dealing with this whole so there's an Amazo robot that Waller's people and Checkmate's been after, and it kind of led up to this, where there's an agent, I think, who is of Checkmate, kind of chose a nuclear option, and now Superman and Amazo, who had pretty much been, I guess, who was at the start of this a prisoner, but got off and learning some things about human life and Christmas because it's so around Christmas time. That whole situation.
God bless us, everyone.
Something like that. But so yeah, the whole situation with that kind of gets wrapped up here. But like I said, it also leads to something that could pretty much come back in season 3, because Josie Campbell, who is the writer of this book, also a showrunner of the show. So who's to say whether that's going to come back or not? Also, I know Agent 70 doesn't care for this part, but we also see where that Flamebird check cashes, but he's also kind of blown through most of it. As we have seen him on the show do. So the fun that they kind of kept that part going.
Flamebird.
Yeah. So therein lies that. Next book for me is oh wait, actually. Oops. Back when there's no distinction between the two. No, actually, they still have the color coding going on. That part is still standing. Well, so no, that part is still there, but yeah, just that, like I said, the feel of it is not of the original series, or either of the series at that. Plastic Man No More number 3 or 4 is my next book, written by Christopher Cantwell, art by Alex Lenz and Jacob Edgar, colors by Marcelo Maiolo, and letters by Becca Carey. So yeah, Plastic Man's unraveling, like actively, coming apart, destabilizing, as you I guess you would say. Yeah, he's turned into goo, folks. So he has this plan to try to fix that, and things have been going from bad to worse in the last couple of issues, including him causing some unknown some things to happen to other DC characters. Now this is a Black Label book, so therefore not in continuity, and therefore the things that are happening to the other side characters are not sticking in the main continuity. But some would argue, the characters that things happen to, probably no one would care if anything happened to those characters, and I don't know if they even have anything going on in actual continuity in the first place, or in the current continuity in the first place. I know one of them had been around in Wonder Woman's book for here and there, but I don't know. But so yeah, leading into the last issue, like I said, things have gotten progressively worse for this plan, but he's still going to go along with it, and we'll see how is either going to end with the death of Plastic Man, or worse, given everything that has already happened. Next up, JSA #1. That's Justice Society of America. In case you did not know.
Oh, you read this? Okay.
I did read these. Yes, which I almost didn't because I was like, well, wait, where is this coming? Well, it's still that because I also kind of. No, I did have it mixed up because I was about to say how I had it mixed up with JLL, but no, I did not. Anyway, this is written by Jeff Lemire with art by Diego Olartugui. I apologize for butchering that name. Colors by Luis Guerrero and letters by Steve Wands. So I'm not entirely sure, although I got a sense that some of the things that they talk about in this book might have come out of Absolute Power, which I did not read. And I also know that there was a JSA book prior to this where the old team with a couple of new faces was front and center. In this particular case, there's a new team made up of some still a similar legacy characters that are running around, and there's dissension in the ranks, which, granted, from what I understand about GSA, is not entirely not surprising because even the old crew kind of had their beefs with each other, but the old team is still kind of around. The new team does not know that, because both teams are kind of handling issues of their own. In fact, the new team's trying to find the old team. Because whatever happened here, again, maybe it happened in Absolute Power, but I do not know to where it got to the state of where it is. They're running around fighting Cobra, not the Cobra of G.I. Joe universe, but I totally forgot there was a Cobra in DC universe. There's a lot of DC that I don't know too much about. And like I said, some of these people are legacy characters, and things upon things upon things. Yeah, it was an interesting read regardless of that, but it just kind of made me, think that, well, I don't know if this has anything to do with that last JSA book. But if whether it did and or had anything to do with what happened in Absolute Power, which it seems like it did from what they're mentioning in here, I don't know that much about it because I didn't read too much of any of those. So, but I wanted to check out just out of curiosity. I did read a little bit of the JSA book prior to this, but I didn't finish it. So, and I don't know if any of that may be playing in attention. But regardless, with this new team and old adversaries still kind of comes back into the play. Seems like I do know enough to know that at the end of this book, and there may be there definitely some stuff that the team doesn't know about going into that with these folk. Oh, and I guess there'll be more of that in later issues. Last book for myself. Wow, no, I guess that is spelled right. I just spelled it wrong. Kahhori, Reshaper of Worlds #1. It is a Marvel Voices special. There is a couple of actually it's in, well, like, this is a Marvel Voices thing, but basically there are 3 stories and they're all kind of connected. So it's not like, hey, here's the one story, it stops and then goes to another one story. No story, it's all one story. That one runs into the other. But and it does it, I guess, in a quote unquote smart way. So let's see. The first story is written by Ryan Little and with art, I am assuming art by Todd Harris, because they give the creative team, but they don't necessarily give like artist thing. The second story is written by Arihoni David and art by David Cutler. And the third and last story is written by Kelly Lynn D'Angelo and I assume art by Jim Terry. Colors for the whole book is done by Rochelle Rosenberg, and lettering is done by VC's Travis Lanham. Basically, so we start off, if you know Kahhori from What If season 2, this is that character. Huh?
Right, the most recent season. I couldn't tell you if it was 2.
Yeah, I believe it was, because I remember seeing something about 3 coming. So I think it is 2. But yes, this is that character that was introduced there. And in this story, well, it starts off with you know, her in her world, but she ends up hopping to the 616. We get a couple of guest stars that cameo here. One of which I guess not that surprising given her heritage. I guess the similar heritage of the character, one of the characters that show up, but also someone adjacent to said character, and who also had a show of their own on, a MCU show of their own at one point. Just say that point. But yeah, this is basically the story of her running up against Loki, because Loki kind of comes and does a thing, and she's chasing him throughout the whole 3 stories, and she meets actually not only the eluded ones I mentioned, but some other, not necessarily 616, but other characters, or another versions of character that also had an MCU show, I will say. if we're putting it that way, that is in one of the stories. But yeah, it was a good read, I thought, and like I said, it was just kind of a one and done. Like I said, Marvel voices style, so it is basically a character showcase in that respect. And there was a food item that brought up that I need to try to find someplace. It's basically an Indian fried bread taco that comes up. And I just saw a recipe for it, and it is in the show notes. So if you want to check that out, it is in the show notes underneath the entry of the book that I was talking about. But outside of that, hey, maybe check this out if you feel like it. And that, folks, ends the books that I have. Kliqs of the week.
All righty, Kliqs of the week. I have my candidates, and I already told Rodykat what my pick was, so
Yep.
let's see what he's got.
So,
and if he needs more time, I'll go right ahead.
Well, no, because we've kind of talked about that. So, Avengers 20, definitely one of mine. Alien versus Avengers, which I believe is a shared one of ours.
Right. And Ultimates as well.
And Ultimates, yes. Ultimates was the other shared one that we have. I think that was it for me, actually. So, and let's see, Ultimates, yep. Birds of Prey could easily be good, but it's not, it's not, because like I said, this is one of those weeks where, that one, the ones that mentioned were quite stronger.
Right. And that's what it comes down to sometimes.
Yeah.
It might be a good read, but there's just something else that's that much stronger that particular week.
Right. So, I mean, DuckTales also was good for what it was, but not to Kliq of the week, potential Kliq of the week standard. And Agent 70s is,
I'm going to go with, surprise, Aliens versus Avengers number 2 of 4, because while Ultimates number 6 was probably the best overall read I had this week, Aliens versus Avengers number 2 had the best moments for me. Like I said earlier, fist pumping moments, like, yeah, hell yeah. And I needed that yesterday. I absolutely needed that. I needed, a particular character, even though it, when all seems hopeless, this particular character generally finds a way to come through. And I needed that.
That also kind of reminds me of a picture that I meant to send you, but I thought more about it as I was going to, but maybe I'll send it to you after the show.
Right.
Kind of in relation to said character, in a way.
Right.
But yeah, if you have been around this show long enough, you know who Agent 70 is a fan of. You understand why he feels the way he feels about the moment. Despite whether you may or may not know what that moment was.
Right.
I am actually Gonna go with Ultimates, number 6.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Avengers was good for what it was, but the things that went on in Ultimates, that whole thing that went on in Ultimates was like, okay, they just served that right on up, right off the bat in their first outing. Cool. And with that, folks, that is oh wait. Blind Gloom says the boring Cobra with a K and no personality. Yeah, that's kind of the similarities pretty much stop at similarly named and what they're about. But yeah. But yeah, folks, we are going to move on to the news. But first, let's get to our first ad read.
All right, our first ad read of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us, that's cspn.us, then click on the Keep Our Podcast free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the more pleasant, or at least somewhat, comic book and pop culture news.
And start off with cinematic news. As we do about this time, Spider-Verse's Miles Morales actor gives advice if he's recast in live-action movie. So Shamik Moore was doing a press thing for his new movie, The Gutter, which seems interesting and kind of weird at the same time. But because I saw the trailer for it like a week or two ago. But regardless, he was doing an interview with comicbook.com to promote said movie called The Gutter. He was asked how he would feel if another actor played Miles Morales in the MCU and if he would have any advice for them. Or I guess they didn't necessarily specific. Well, they did kind of specify live action, but I guess this article says they didn't sound like they specify when they brought it back up. Anyway, he says, okay, my honest answer is that I would probably have to have a moment to myself in the mirror and accept, the editor admitted. But then secondly, it would be me knowing that everything happens for reasons and that person has a responsibility that's placed on them. That kind of responsibility won't fall on the wrong person. So it'll be meant to be with great responsibility. He didn't say that part, but I'm just going to drop that in there real quick. See, it says, as for advice, Moore would ask that person to, quote, literally embrace who you are and how you are going to execute this job, and inspire the community, inspire humanity. That's it. My advice is, if you ever need to call, you can. So, sorry about that. But there you go. And I guess there's a link on this article to the whole interview from comicbook.com. So there you go. Next up.
So I actually heard in a podcast, a Ringerverse podcast, where the Agatha All Along showrunner, Jack Schaefer, told the hosts that she wanted She-Hulk Attorney at Law, character from She-Hulk Attorney at Law, in the coven that is featured in Agatha All Along. And I laughed. I cackled at the idea of this character being a part of this coven, right? So in this interview with Mallory Rubin and Joanna Robinson, Jack Schaefer revealed that she had originally hoped to bring She-Hulk breakout star Patty Guggenheim, otherwise or better known as Madison King, along for the journey down the witch's road. Right? So it just didn't work. It was unfortunately shoehorning. I would have enjoyed seeing Madison shoehorned somehow. Maybe not part of the coven, but I would have loved to see Madison in Agatha All Along.
It would have been curious if they would have done that as opposed to Deborah Jo Rupp's Mrs. I keep wanting to call her Mrs. Hart, even though that's not that was the
Right.
running joke of the thing. But as opposed to that character, or just in another form, I don't know. That I guess it's good that it didn't happen, but yeah, I kind of would have. I am very curious as to see what would have happened with that.
Right.
Had it
Right. I
happened.
mean, I agreed with the idea with the sense that it would be shoehorning this character in just for laughs,
Right.
because obviously the Deborah Jo Rupp character, existed in WandaVision, so it made perfect sense to have
Mhm.
that character carry over.
Yep. And hopefully, maybe we'll still see this character, somewhere.
I hope so. Very soon, I hope. Very soon, I hope.
Maybe she'll in turn show up in Daredevil.
With Wong, of course.
Yeah, maybe something. Who's to say? But next up, though, Elizabeth Olsen teases her return as Scarlet Witch. And I guess the quote in the title says, "I think would maybe be spoiling something because that sounds like some Marvel snipers that she can't hex her way out of."
Got to her.
Yeah, let's see. During a recent Q&A panel, Olsen was asked if there were any particular storylines she'd like to bring to life in the MCU. Her answer definitely teased her return to the role with a quote, "Well, honestly, if I were to tell you exactly what I would want, I think I would maybe be spoiling something." Kevin Feige genuinely asks us what we want to do with the character, and then he does it, and she laughed. "So I don't know if I can share. I just want to come back," which is interesting considering I have heard reports of her maybe possibly
To the contrary, right?
Exactly. So that is good to know if that is the case. So it sounds like, and given what we know about her last appearance, and a couple of things that were kind of teased in Agatha, sounds like, the potential is already there. Anyway, so it sounds like whatever storyline she would want to explore with the character is going to move forward. I also assume she'll show up in a coming Avengers movie, according to this article. So I feel like that's probably a given, honestly. Like I said, the Scarlet Witch's last appearance, while some people would think was definitive, we of the comic folks know otherwise. So, yeah. I forgot to bring up next time. Next up,
Deadpool and Wolverine, the movie is now available on Blu-ray. You can get hours of bonus content plus a new printable disc cover. That's actually pretty cool. So if you're looking at this news story, you can click this and print it. And if you are fortunate enough to have a color printer, it's a pretty cool looking cover for your Blu-ray or for your Blu-ray cover. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Or if not,
lots of bonus features.
Yeah, if not, hey, you can use it as a background if you're so inclined or something. Who knows?
Right.
I still haven't watched that movie, then it's probably going to be a while. Anyway, Robert Zemeckis says Roger Rabbit 2 isn't ever going to see the light of day because of Jessica Rabbit, apparently. And also, I guess, current Disney, which was the side note of that. So, let's see. On a recent episode of the Happy Sad Confused podcast, Zemeckis lamented, quote, "There is a good script for a sequel at Disney, but here's the thing. The current Disney would never make Roger Rabbit today. They can't make a movie with Jessica in it," according to him. He added that the sequel script, which was penned by original Roger Rabbit writers Peter S. Seaman and Jeffrey Price, isn't ever going to see the light of day as good as it is, end quote. So I don't know who's holding out for a Roger Rabbit sequel, but I guess, it's the possibility of one is out there. Maybe we're just throwing that out there. I'm sure it is definitely to his his benefit if it ever comes to if that ever happens to put that information out there. So, yeah. Next up,
the cast of Lanterns from DC Studios has expanded again, with Kelly MacDonald being the latest addition, according to The Hollywood Reporter. She will be playing a new character named Sheriff Carey. She's the third person to join the series, following Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart. Apparently, the log line of the series says the series follows new recruit Jon Stewart and Lantern legend Hal Jordan, two intergalactic cops drawn into a dark, Earth-based mystery. Read that as low special effects budget as they investigate a murder in the American heartland.
Again, it almost if they did this right, this could be a Thor's level / Law and Order / vehicle. That would be great because I always thought the Green Lanterns would be good for that kind of stuff, and I don't think they've ever done that. We got that in Thor's in a way.
Right.
Which is still a favorite of ours around here. But,
yes.
Yeah, but not in the book that you would think would happen with. Regardless, hey, we'll definitely be talking about it one way or another when it gets here. Let's see. The Penguin inches to another viewership milestone ahead of the finale. Episode 7 hit a series high of 1.9 million cross-platform US viewers across HBO and Max on Sunday night, according to Warner Brothers Discovery, showcasing a 6% same-day audience increase in the last 2 weeks. The company says that the week leading up to the last episode was the Penguin's strongest week domestically on Max, likely in anticipation of the upcoming finale on November 10th, which is a couple of days from this recording. So there you go. And then it goes into more numbers about the viewership of the show, yada, yada, and yada. Next up.
Warner Brothers Discovery has released an extended Joker Folie à Deux preview to coincide with the release of the film in digital format. That release was on October 29th, and it will also be released on Blu-ray and 4K Ultra HD on December 17th. Still won't watch it.
Yep. And there's a certain soundbite that still continues to hold true for this particular project. And that is why? In spoilers for a show that I haven't watched yet, but that's fine because it's probably going to be a second. Star Trek gives a reason why Starfleet admirals are evil. That was a slip of the tongue. And this is spoilers for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 3. The Best Exotic Nanite Hotel, which is a play for whatever movie that was. I'm not going to really go into it, but I feel like everything has been said. And of course, this is a Screen Rant article, so you have to take that with those grains of salts, or probably the whole can of salt in this particular case with Screen Rant articles on that. But yeah, has to do with Star Trek and a corrupt Starfleet admiral, of which there have been plenty over the history of the franchise. So, and I'm sure they were going to make fun of that with that. No, it's a great show. I enjoy that show. Anyway, next up.
Gotta love it. At a screening and Q&A event in Los Angeles this past Sunday, honoring the 10-year, that's right, anniversary of the first John Wick film, Keanu Reeves actually admitted that he actually puked while shooting some of the action scenes. So there's a couple times where you throw up or puke or whatever, but that's what makes it good. He's giving a lot of credit to the teachers and guidance and the work that he did with so many talented actors, actresses, and stunt people. So in the sense of it's such a dance and collaboration and cooperation. At the end of the convo, director Chad Stahelski also teased that there's more John Wick coming in the future, in addition to the upcoming spin-off movie Ballerina, starring Ana de Armas and featuring Keanu Reeves in his last on-screen appearance as John Wick. So let's see. So they have a documentary coming out about the making of all the John Wicks, and I'm a sucker for that. I'm definitely going to take a look at that.
Yep, same. Yeah, it doesn't give a time data for the time frame for those, but
Yeah.
with that, and the funny thing about it was like they said, yeah, there's more stuff coming up in the world of John Wick, and that's almost at this point like a water is wet situation.
Yeah.
So, and I still haven't seen the Continental yet because who watches Peacock,
I was about to say, who has Peacock?
right? So
I found out a family member of mine has Peacock, and I thought about like what could I watch, and I completely forgot about the Continental.
right.
Is it still only solely on Peacock?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen it show up anywhere else at this point, but I figure at some point it'll probably be on Netflix, but it'll probably be a while.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah. Actually, take this next one.
Okay. Let me pull this up.
I didn't know if you saw this or not.
I did, but I'll wait for it, So Godzilla is stomping its way back to the big screen. That's never a surprise. A new Godzilla movie from the director of last year's Oscar-winning Japanese film Godzilla Minus One has been officially greenlit. Toho made the announcement this past Friday. So Takashi Yamazaki, who wrote and directed Godzilla Minus One, will return for the new film. Good.
Yeah.
And he's also going to be handling the visual effects.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll give him some more money, but I doubt it. They'll give him a little bit more money, just as a gift.
Yeah, and I figure like with what he has reported to do with with the money he's had already, keep him humble, keep him constrained. It went well for him the first time.
Right.
Which again, I still need to watch this movie. And yeah, I know it's out there, but still. Next up, we are going to go into the anime corner.
Anime corner.
Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Freedom Zero project has been announced. It is a prequel to the Seed Freedom movie. I have not seen a whole lot of Gundam Seed. I know what it is. I've seen it. Actually, I'll take it away. I've seen some Gundam Seed. I haven't seen the follow-ups to it. So that's a whole thing. But at a special screening of Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Freedom in Japan, fans got a big surprise. The story isn't over. Director Mitsuo Fukuda, announced at the screening after the film that there's one more project in the works with said titled Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Freedom Zero. According to the producer, who also spoke at the event, the project will serve as a sequel to 2004's Gundam Seed Destiny and a prequel to Freedom, bridging the gap between the series and the new film. The project was originally intended to be an OVA, but the medium for the new story has not been decided, end quote. It is unclear whether that means Freedom Zero will be different sort of anime production or whether it will take some other form entirely. And there's no release date given at the time of this article. So there you go. More Gundam, folks. Given with the coming anniversary. Next up.
Okay, so Digimon Adventure Beyond Anime announced, and it's a special, right? So let's see here. The hate article's written like this. So New York. So this was news coming out of New York Comic Con a few weeks ago, and to celebrate 25 years of Digimon history, Digimon Adventure Beyond will give us a new look at the Digit destined after some time away. Let's see here. This is going to arrive for the 25th anniversary of the franchise in March of 2025. The project in question is not a new anime series or a feature-length film, but rather is a special music video that might give us the oldest iterations of the heroes in Digimon to date. Okay.
Sure. I was about to say, those Tri movies kind of did all that work. So but I guess we're gonna get them even older. So sometimes I weirdly want to go back and watch those series, and those are long propositions, especially the first one. But anyway, Doraemon anime series teases the first new theme song in 5 years. The new opening will commemorate 45 years of Doraemon films. Apparently, since October 2019, the theme song has been Doraemon by Gen Hoshino. Today's episode, as of this article being written, will mark the final appearance of the song as the show's opening theme, starting November 9th, which is already passed. Well, excuse me. No, it
No,
hasn't
it's
already
Saturday.
passed. Yes, it's Saturday. The opening will once again be 2007's Yume wo Kaneda Doraemon. I butchered that, I know. There will be multiple versions of the opening over the course of this run, featuring famous scenes from the franchise's many films. So there you go. If you know anything about Doraemon, which I know we've talked about in the past, and you enjoy that, hey, there you go. Next up, actually, I'm going to take this one because I know there's no context to this. But basically,
I clicked it and I'm like, huh? So please, thank you.
Yes. So basically, there's a new channel / playlist, I guess, on Spotify and Apple Music coming from the collaboration between, well, basically coming from Crunchyroll. I saw this out on Twitter a couple of days ago, and I thought there was going to be an article attached to this, and I think we may or may not have talked about back in August that Crunchyroll and Spotify had a deal, to put together playlists for anime, and yeah, I guess this is the new one that they have together, and which it also comes on Apple Music, so you can click through that, and it'll take you directly to the playlist. That if you're watching the video version,
I just pulled it up on my phone,
mm-hmm.
So looking at the playlist now. Okay.
So yeah, stuff that folks, anime knowing folks may know and love, and it's a long list. Well, it's a fairly sizable list. Actually, you might be getting a glimpse of. No, you're not. I was about to say you might be getting a glimpse. Yes, you are getting a glimpse of a couple of my playlists. In addition to that, you'll need to see that, folks. Some of that gold though. So yeah, you need a good anime playlist from the folks of from the Crunchyroll folks. There you go. Or at least another one, I should say. There you go.
There's at least one song from Haikyuu in there that I recognized. There's My Hero. There's obviously something from Demon Slayer that we all know. It's the first theme song, and that's the one that's gonna stick in everyone's ear. As soon as you hear it, you know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like even you're watching the video version, I was gonna say you might not know him by name, but I figure like if you're into anime enough, you probably absolutely do.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but yeah, you check out when
or you might just recognize it from like the album cover.
Sure, there is that.
Yeah.
There is that.
All right, next up. Beastar's final season trailer sets up a bloody and intense finale. Okay. Beastars is now on the way with the third and final season of the anime, and Netflix has finally locked down its release date with a new trailer. Let's see here. Beastar's final season will be kickstarting its run with part 1 of its episodes releasing with Netflix worldwide beginning on December 5th. It's not yet clear just how many episodes this first half of the finale will include, but you'll find out on December 5th. That's not that far away anymore.
Indeed.
Have you watched Beastars?
Yes, I have actually. That's a wild show.
Okay.
Not Odd Taxi Wild, but yeah, for what they get into in that show, it's kind of wild. And also not because it has to do with animals, but definitely because it has to do with animals. Anywho, legendary god of horror. Actually, well, I should have put this. I'll move this in a minute, but it doesn't matter. Legendary quote god of horror manga artist Kazuo Umezu dies at 88. He was the creator of The Drifting Classroom, Cat-Eyed Boy, and many other classic works. If you are into horror manga, you know one or most of all of that. I am not versed in any of that. So, Umezu was born on September 3rd, 1936 in Wakayama Prefecture, but grew up in neighboring Nara Prefecture. He drew comics from an early age, partially inspired by Osamu Tezuka's landmark New Treasure Island, and made his professional debut as a manga artist in 1955 while still in his late teens. Doesn't really, well, it probably doesn't, but I'm not going to go through all this. Yeah, doesn't really say what he passed from, but 88. Let's just assume it's national causes. And that we are going to get into the comic book news.
Loki ambushes Earth's mightiest heroes and the Avengers in the Veracity Trap. And the cover has been revealed. It's going to release in May 2025. This is the latest graphic novel from Abrams Books, MarvelArts line, and it's by Chip Kidd, written by Chip Kidd, with art by Michael Cho. This is a hardcover with 64 pages, retailing for $25.99. Again, available May 13th, 2025. It looks pretty fun. This is in a similar vein of Alex Ross's Fantastic Four Full Circle hardcover story.
Right. So yeah, looks cool. I don't think we're going to get. Well, we might. I don't know. I don't think
we might. Yeah, I was about to say let's not presume, but yeah, we might.
Yeah, I don't know. Those Abrams books, I don't think we get too many of those. But who was to say? But anyway, Captain Assyria officially returns to Marvel lore as his Avengers roster is introduced. And this is spoilers for X-Force number 5, which Agent 70 was just talking about earlier. So we can kind of skip past this. Next up.
Marvel teases the mutant civil war's devastating aftermath. Okay, so this is coming out of, I guess, the upcoming battle between the Cyclops group of X-Men and Rogue's group of X-Men.
Yeah, it was teased at the end of this week's X-Men 7 and maybe the last Uncanny, but I don't know because I didn't read that. But definitely was teased after the end of this week's issue.
Right. So this is a 4-part crossover between the two books.
Mm-hmm. The Raid on Greymalkin.
Right. So this is issues 8 and 9 of X-Men and issues 7 and 8 of Uncanny. And the fallout is going to take place in X-Men number 10 in January. A new arc is going to begin in Uncanny number 9 that pits the mutants against, another group of people.
So, like I said this earlier, like I said, I don't think we've had this kind of. Actually, I don't think we had this kind of crossover during the Krakoa era that I remember.
No, not like this.
Yeah, and we haven't had one of this caliber in a while. It's interesting. Will it be any good as, say, Mutant Massacre or Extinction Agenda? I guess we'll find out, but we don't know if it's supposed to be of caliber. So I'm floating through the covers as we go. Oh, that's kind of a familiar shadow. There you go. And next up, Marvel Comics editor explains why Marvel isn't interested in doing more crossovers. So, actually, well, something we'll bring up at the end of the show that this is slightly in reference to. In 2019, the final issue of DC's Doomsday Clock teased the Secret Crisis, a universe spanning Marvel DC crossover in the not so far future of 2030. Should such a future come to pass, it would mark the first time the two books publishers crossed over since 2003's JLL Avengers.
That was in 2003. Oh my god.
Yep. And that capped off 3 decades of combined Marvel DC crossovers dating back to Superman versus Amazing Spider-Man back in 1976.
Damn.
Yep. See, the intercompany crossover isn't a new concept to Marvel or DC. The superheroes of DC have crossed paths with the likes of Spawn, Judge Dredd, yada yada yada. Of course, I would say fairly recent, but it's not that recent. The Hanna-Barbera. Oh, they talk about that multiverses thing, but also that multiverses. I mean, not that Hanna-Barbera thing, but that's just corporate synergy at that point. That they had a couple of years back with the Future State stuff and the that one Batman Elmer Fudd one shot that they reprinted, decent recently. The DC Looney Tunes stuff also with that. So yeah. But yeah, it goes on and on and on. But basically, and this is coming from Tom Brevoort's Substack, as things tend to do. And the quote here is, Marvel isn't all that interested in doing a lot of crossovers. DC for the last several years has been seen much more open to doing them, but whenever Marvel does participate in one, there tends to be some reason for this internally, some objective that making a crossover help us achieve that. Oh no, like Avengers versus Alien, for instance, where they have the license for said property. Might come to reason. That's just me editorializing, not him saying that. Let's see, the X-Men editor term, but each circumstance is different, not that much different. So I can't tell you why we do each and every one, nor which instances came from Marvel reaching out to others, and which ones were the result of others reaching out to us. I think we can, with the aforementioned and a couple of other recent ones, I think we have a pretty good idea of where they came from. Let's see, what is the oh right, that brings up that Ultraman Avengers stuff that is still going on also. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that is still going on actually. And other collaborations that have been brought up. This article is bringing up, but yeah. So I was thinking. Oh, and also brings up something that we'll talk about later on at the end of the show. So we'll save that for then. Next up.
Alrighty, next up. Star Wars: The High Republic celebrates a major wedding in December. Okay. So let's see. So this is let's see here. So there is a standalone special titled Star Wars High Republic Adventures Wedding Spectacular. So this is a Dark Horse book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because right, the Marvel's handling the High Republic book, but like the Adventures books are Dark Horses. I don't know how.
Oh, so this is High Republic Adventures. Okay.
Right. So, and if you are watching the video version and you can read Arabic, hey, good luck with it. Have at it, because you can kind of make out what this is, but I don't know the language. It does not look like the Krakoan lettering, which I almost tried to learn. So,
right.
But yeah, it's going to be a wedding between a couple of the characters. You can see said characters right there. The happy couple. Hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully there's no Marvel-esque.
Or Game of Thrones-esque.
Yes. Hinge that happens in said ceremony. But yeah, there's a slideshow full of reviews there. So I'll just go ahead and go through them now. There's the lovely couple. I have not been reading the Adventures book, so I have no idea what's going on that side of the things. But yeah. I think every upcoming Star Wars game officially announced. So let's see. They talk about Star Wars Outlaws, which is just come out. I totally forgot it was about this Quantum Dream thing. Oh God, that is still, I guess, coming out. But we don't have any. Oh, it's called Star Wars Eclipse. There's Star Wars Jedi 3, which continues the adventures of Cal Kestis. Sounds like, and there's an untitled Star Wars strategy game, also from Respawn, which that last one also was as well. Knights of the Old Republic remake. I do remember that Saber Interactive's doing, so that's going to be all right. And there's also an untitled Star Wars action adventure game from Skydance New Media. Yes, that's Skydance. And that looks like that is. Like I said, most of this is like to be announced, or more details announced. We just know that, hey, these things are in the works, basically. Also worth noting, hey, if you're a fan of if you're of a certain vintage and of a fan of Star Wars TIE Fighter, there's a total conversion mod for that game that is out there that looks pretty doggone good. Especially if you have that game, which you could probably find at pennies at Good Old Games. For those that don't know, TIE Fighter and X-Wing were basically flight simulator games in the Star Wars universe, but lots of shooty pew pew going on in the missions. So good stuff. Anyway, maybe I'll try to put a link in the show notes for that mod. Anyway, next up,
the McFarlane Mega figure line is a line that is usually taller than the regular action figure line, some coming in at 9 inches or more. We'll have to wait and see what the exact measurements are, but McFarlane announced that they are releasing the Swamp Thing from Planet Ran. This is a figure based on an appearance in Swamp Thing number 57 from February 1987, which introduces the terrifying monster when hero Adam Strange attempted to return to planet Ran and instead smashes head-on into the Swamp Thing, which mutated Swamp Thing into a red and cacti-like creature, and it's up to Adam to take him down. Love it. You can pre-order this on various toy places.
Okay, sure.
Godzilla. I mean, this is definitely a completist thing.
Yeah, sure. Godzilla Minus One charging variant figure coming soon from Super 7. So, Godzilla's 7th anniversary still going on. And let's see, Super 7's new Ultimate figure features a unique charging variant. Let's see, you can pre-order the said charging variant for $85 with a December 2024 release date, and there it is. And you can see pictures of said figure right here as I'm scrolling through them for the video version, people. We don't have that technology and audio yet. Sorry, but we probably never will, based on what I just said. But yeah. See, is there anything else to it? No, I just went through everything. There you go. Agent 70 will probably have one. No, I'm just kidding.
You never know. Yeah.
So, next up.
Alrighty. A new Generation 1 inspired Transformers RPG. You heard me, folks. An RPG is rising up and rolling out in 2025. So, Transformers Eternal War is a new idle RPG based on the beloved G1 franchise. Okay. So, this is a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely recreating what fans know and love about the inaugural phase of Transformers. There are not a lot of details yet, but the first look at the game has been provided, and it seems to provide a promise of retro action-packed adventure. Okay.
So I was kind of excited about this until I didn't look at that closely. Until Agent 70 just said the word idle, which brings.
What does that mean?
So idle games are basically mobile games Well, they have them. They also have them on like console PC. Well, basically PC, whatever. So idle games is kind of like how do I explain it? You are clicking things to make other things happen, and then this might not be this might not be how this goes. There is an Invincible idle game that is out right now,
Mm.
where basically you you're getting characters together to form a team, and they're basically going through scenarios. But as you're going through this, and you're basically going through those scenarios to make them stronger, so that they can go to the next scenario and beat those bad guys up. Again, we don't have we don't have a whole lot of information on this particular game to see if it's going to be that or hopefully more RPG like and less idle game like. But the fact that they said idle here just kind of makes me think, okay, this is probably going to be a mobile game, and it's probably going to be like that Invincible game. If you played that Invincible game, which I know Agent 70 has not. So yeah, it's kind of a. I don't want to say a time waster because that's not fair to those type of games, but
Right.
you know, um, yeah, we'll see. Plus, also the fact that it's from and this is gonna sound really bad, but plus the fact that it's produced by a Chinese company, uh, doesn't give me hope that it's going to be any less than an idle game. But we shall see. Like I said, it's got to be anything's got to be better than damn Transformers Battlegrounds, because that was a terrible game. For those who have played it, so, and that was just turn-based strategy game, which could have been a whole lot better, but it was also set in not in G1, so that's a whole nother situation. Anyway, I'm gonna keep on going, move past this before I get sad. Next up,
That's you.
oh, yes it is. I got carried away. G.I. Joe Classified Series adds Heavy Duty and Trench Viper. If you're watching the video version, you can see said pictures. Heavy Duty will be $35. The Trench Viper with Cobra modular fortification is $54.99. There's also an image of Nemesis Enforcer, although they call it Nemesis Immortal here. Which, yeah, I don't know. Like, is it the same character and they just changed it from one? Because I know definitely in the movie it was Nemesis Enforcer.
Right.
So did they change that at some point here? It doesn't really matter. Also, they're harkening back to stuff that was announced at New York Comic Con, which is, if you're watching the video version, the Dr. Mindbender, Rock and Roll, and the Cobra Viper figures that were shown off there. And I think those are, yeah, those are also, I guess you can get your hands on those or pre-order them as well. So cool. Last but not least,
Now up for pre-order is a straightforward Monopoly Pokemon edition. And let's see, it wouldn't be a Pokemon game if you weren't collecting Pokemon in some way. So of course that's exactly what the ultimate goal is in Pokemon Monopoly Edition. Okay. So yeah, get prepared to have family members cheat with the stuff that's supposed to stay in the bank.
I'm not, based on what I'm seeing with these pieces, I'm not sure how much
There
actual
is a
money.
bank, right? Yeah.
I'm not
It
sure
looks
actually.
right. There might actually be
They're doing it different.
a game mechanism that involves just catching Pokemon and not paying rent. So we'll see.
That's what it's looking like here in a way. Well, it looks like you have you definitely have a starter Pokemon here, and there's a bunch of chips on this board for reasons upon reasons. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Oh, I see where the fighting is gonna come from.
Right.
Because instead of playing as the Hat, Cat, and Car, you'll play as Sprigatito, Fuecoco, Quaxley, or Pikachu as the characters, and all the fighting is gonna be over who gets to play as Pikachu.
Yes, probably there is that, and whatever the however you handle this board situation. I'm sure there'll
Right.
be something there. But hey, you know what? Hey, it's Monopoly. A spin on it could be potentially interesting. And with that, folks, we are actually, yeah, why not? Let's do this last ad read, and then we'll get into the last thing we have.
Sure. Help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our CSPN link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, folks. Before we get out of here, we got a little show and tell to do. And actually, let me get off of that real quick. So, Age of 70, I want you to show off the first thing since we have it in common. Plus, you'll be able to show it off a little bit better than I can at this point.
Because I opened mine.
That too.
So. I'm going to drop my virtual background just so that you folks can see on video what I am holding. That is the George Perez main cover of the DC versus Marvel omnibus, collecting all of the DC Marvel crossovers that have ever been published, but for JLA versus Avengers. So there's some really great stuff in here, like Superman versus Spider-Man, Batman versus the Hulk, and of course, what I had not as a kid, but what I knew of as a kid, what I was able to get in college was Teen Titans versus X-Men. And I flipped through this. There's some incredible old school things in here that I never would have been able to get my hands on, and some new school stuff that I regretfully read in college.
Yes. The back of the book says the greatest superhero team up of all time returned to print, which, as you know, as the Agent 70 just acknowledged, minus one particular.
Right. There's some cool back matter stuff in here too. Like there's actually picture images of the pencils of the Jim Lee variant cover. That's here at the very back of the book, as well as other back matter stuff like columns about, some of the history between the two companies, some of the stuff that was published as these crossovers were being printed, and some black and white images here of, like I said, back matter stuff. It looks really cool. I have not yet had a real chance to dive through all of this, but I definitely flipped through to see what I had already read, what I owned, and I'm looking forward to going through this again and seeing these stories, all together.
Yeah. If you're watching the video version, you saw Agent 70 hold his up, and you saw me kind of doing the side shots of some of this stuff. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. This is a big honking volume.
Yeah.
This is the back.
Yep.
And like I said, I hesitate to open this to any one page, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. All of these 90s crossovers. If you were reading comics at that time, you will recognize a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Silver Surfer Superman with Ron Lim art. I'm just flipping through this like, wow, I remember when that came out. Like I said, part of the 90s, folks. And obviously this leads right into the Amalgam books.
Right. Of which that is the next omnibus that is, I think, slated to come out like December-ish.
Right. And it's and in the back matter, well, on the back flap of the dust cover, it does say the action continues in DC versus Marvel, the Amalgam Age Omnibus.
Mm-hmm. Of which I should have that coming whenever, because the last I saw from my Amazon thing, it did say December. But as things have tended to happen, like what I'm about to show, that can change.
I own the miniseries crossover. I did not buy any of the spin-off books.
Right. I see. I still kick myself. Well, kick myself. I had no control over it. But one, the JLL Avengers thing, which granted, you can find digital copies of that stuff out there if you are so enterprising. But I would have loved to have physical copy of it. And when that Hero Initiative version came out, but people bought that like really, really fast. So it was
Yeah,
kind of hard.
they swooped on that because that was supposed to be a charitable thing.
Yep. So, which great for the charity, not great for somebody like me who couldn't get their hands on one.
Right.
Speaking of, in a slight update, and I forgot to ask Matt if he got his, but that Marvel Magic the Gathering collaboration, I did happen to get my order in, even after the hiccups and stuff that they had going through that. So I have, whenever they send those out, I have mine coming to me. I just got the non-foil one because I didn't have or was going to pay $450 for both non-foil and foil, even though I would have wanted it.
Damn.
And usually for if you do a super drop, which is what they call those, it's usually like 200. And the cards that I have, which is basically all 5 sets, and just non-foil cards is $100 was $200. The foil ones was like 240 or 250 bucks for just the foil of all 5 sets.
That's crazy.
And all of them together, and both of those together was like say 400, almost $500. And it went kind of fast. Like people were people were kind of mad about that also because of the way it was handled, and they had technical issues. I was kind of upset because of like they stopped things, and there was a hiccup even when I got to the cart that I was about to be mad about because of like, you mean to tell me I got all this way and I had to sit for about an hour or like almost an hour for it, and my cart was empty, but I had to do a thing and it. My order got through, but like, people got mad about this stuff, and I know there's videos out there from people mad about how the way that they handled that. It's slightly rightly because, like I said, sometimes that stuff doesn't get handled all the way well with that stuff. So it is. I sympathize, but I'm glad I got mine. I would imagine Matt probably got his too, but because I hadn't asked him yet. But
something to follow up on.
Yes, indeed, indeed. So, one last thing before we go, I do have another bit of show and tell, which I didn't show 8-7 before now, but I did. But I told him about it before. There we go. Knight Rider. Oh, okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
So, if you're watching the video version, you are seeing the Transformers / Knight Rider collaboration. So yes, it is a Transformer in the form of Kit. As of yet, no book that this collaboration is going with, but I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be one at some point.
Does it come with a Michael Knight headmaster?
Sadly, no. I kind of wondered about that. I was like, man, that's a missed opportunity right there. But the Autobot, this is an Autobot, and his name is Agent Knight. I'm not taking it out of the box just yet. You can see if you're watching the video version the transformation sequence, or at least part of it, and of course the spec sheet on the back, as with all good G1 figures had back in the day. Don't have the red thing though, because I think they stopped doing the red slip that used to come. They used to have to put across it.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. To see the specs, but yeah. So that's that one. Like I said, I hope at some point soon that I will have some space and maybe even another shelf to put some of these stuff out on. Not unlike Agent 70 and his dioramas in the back of him.
Right. So. Right. They're usually not in the back of me anymore. They're in. They're on another bookshelf on the side because this bookshelf is full with books. But I may be reorganizing things, so we'll see.
Right. And I'm almost fairly certain that the lights in the front don't go side to side. That's also another missed opportunity. But it was also it would have needed a battery, so
Right.
there is that.
That's unfortunate. I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, like I said, as far as I know, that's not the case. But because I don't see any indication of like there's a battery. Plus, it's a it being a transformer. I can only imagine what kind, and where would they have even put the battery on this thing? Honestly, so I mean there is a place, but I can't imagine. Well, no, AA probably could have fit in that hood. Either way, that folks is that for show and tell, and that is it for the show. Actually, let me just go ahead and do this thing right here. Boop. But yeah, folks, that's it. I don't think either one of us have any packages coming anytime soon. Well, I have the other omnibus coming next month probably. But
Right, and you never know, what fit of shop whatchamacallit, shopping therapy or retail therapy I might end up going through. So, I might just like binge on something. I'll tell Rodykat about something I spotted after the show.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And he's right. Yeah, that tends to happen, especially after the show when we're getting these fits. It's like, oh man, that's the thing. Which led to a couple of these purchases. Actually, one of the purchases from last week for me, anyway.
Right.
So yeah. All right. So this is the end of the show. We're gonna wrap this up so we can get up out of here. I have been Rodykat. You can find me at Rodykat on Twitter. You can find me at Newsnerds on Twitter. You can find me at CBCops on Instagram. Which also reminds me of well, I forgot to mention this, but yeah, Batgirl is coming back. Yay! There's no news at this point. There's no actual news article about it, but if you follow Sanford Green or probably David F. Walker on Instagram, you probably have found out about it now. So I'm happy about that. But Agent_70 on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. You haven't done the Blue Sky thing yet, I guess, or yeah. I know I see a lot of people migrating over to that. I'm like, why are you running? Don't let those assholes run you off of Twitter, even though Twitter's kind of a cesspool at this point in cases. So I understand, but yeah. That's a whole nother situation. But yes, you can find this here podcast on the Coastal Little Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us, and I'm just gonna keep running on this one after I say what I say, but you can find this here podcast on the Coastal Little Podcast Network. I mean, I said that already, but you can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, I did that wrong, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Little Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. But also, you could find us streaming every Thursday night, mostly every Thursday night, 9:30-ish, or sometime after that, mostly, on the YouTube channel of the Kliq Nation. That's youtube.com/TheKliqNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know when we are on live. And 5-star reviews, folks.
Yeah. And definitely for the Twitch channel, because like I said, like I alluded to earlier in the show, well, actually what I told is before the show, there's going to be some video gaming going on there. There's some stuff I need to go ahead and just get out the pocket, like the G.I. Joe thing, the Transformers beat 'em up. I mean, not Transformers. Boy, that should be a good one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat 'em up. There's probably some Marvel's Spider-Man that I need to go and finish up. There's a lot of stuff that I could be doing. Go do some retro, old school, comic book gaming, and all of that. So yeah, there's stuff to do. I just need to get up and behind and do it. Like the recent events have kind of had the energy for doing anything of that sort. Not so much, but we're going to try to get back to form with any and all of that in the wake of sadness. And unless Agent 70 has something else he wants to get off his chest or anything.
Now we good.
This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.